Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing a mini-series review. This series is from the UK, English language, released in the year 2024, directed by Veronica Tafilska and Josephine Borbush, and this series is called Baby Reindeer. So Baby Reindeer is about a real life of Richard Gadd, who plays himself as Donnie. Donnie is down on his luck. He's a bartender. He has aspirations of being a stand-up comedian, but things aren't going well for him. And so one day his life changes forever when Martha comes into the bar, tells him that she's equally as depressed with her life, and pretty soon the two of them form this friendship. But the more the friendship progresses, the more toxic things get, and this is where it snowballs to a point of no return. So what that no return is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going. My synopsis. Now my thoughts on Baby Reindeer. I came across this series by accident on IMDb. It was trending, everyone was talking about it, saying how good it was, the hype was unbelievable, and so for that it caught my attention. So when I saw that it was a story about stalking, I thought, okay, well, you've seen one, you've seen them all, but then I thought as though, alright, well, the actual real story is quite riveting. That I'm not going to give anything away, but when I saw that it was based on a true story, that is a tag that has been used time and time again, but it's always entices my interest. And so when I did a little bit of research about this story, I thought I definitely want to go and see this mini-series, and I was going to give it every opportunity to impress me without outside influence. It's a very hard thing to do, but I was going to level my expectations to a point where I could just base it on what I believe this is all about instead of what others believe. And so coming in there with my excitement levels basically lowered a little bit, but coming into that hoping that it was going to be that mini-series that everyone else is talking about, I had my fingers crossed. And after watching this mini-series, I will say that it is very well made. There are some incredible moments in this series, but I don't share the love that this series has for the simple fact that I feel as though it was a little bit too manipulative. And that's something I'll go into a little bit later, but what I liked about Baby Reindeer was the positives. The positives are absolutely fantastic. You have Richard Gadd, who is showing his vulnerability to the rest of the world, and that's something that I thought was very, very brave. This is a character, as the episodes go on, you start to become horrified at what this character actually went through, and it would have been easy to sugarcoat it, would have been easy to hide from the ugliness of reality, but Richard Gadd doesn't do this, and so he does unravel himself in front of the audience, and that's leaving himself open for critique, it's leaving himself open for attack, but he doesn't care about that. And so not a lot of filmmakers would ever dare do this, but Richard Gadd does a great job at actually giving you that vulnerable side of him and showing you the way that he is, and the things that he does in this story, you can see why he actually did them. So it's a story about two very broken people. What I also liked about it was that it's a story about, it's not a story about good versus bad, it's a story about broken versus broken, and that each person contributes to each other's problems, and this snowballs in a tragic set of circumstances. So I thought that was all very good. I thought the script was actually quite decent, and there were some very, very funny moments, and there are some horrifically harrowing moments as well, so be very careful going into that. You've also got Jessica Gunning's performance as Martha. That was absolutely astounding. It was by far the best part of this series. Very reminiscent of Kathy Bates' performance as Annie Wilkes in Misery. One second she's very sweet and charming, and the next second she's very intimidating and scary. And so that takes a lot to actually play that sort of character. I definitely feel as though Jessica Gunning, it was an unknown name to me before coming into Baby Reindeer, but it's definitely an actress that I'm going to keep an eye out for in the future, because her role as Martha was absolutely phenomenal. I just thought as though her performance, you don't see that very often, and you see the mini-series, you'll know exactly what I mean. She really knocks it out of the park, and I thought the chemistry between two main characters I thought was absolutely perfect. There are some very warm and tender moments, but in the next second they hate each other. And so both of them are very unhinged individuals and unpredictable individuals, and it's like a ticking time bomb, and that relationship I thought was the driving force of this whole show, and that's what kept it from ever getting boring. I thought the episodes were very smooth. The transition from one episode to another was very good. They don't take very long to get through, so you can binge watch it, and that's typical of the British. They know exactly how to actually cap off a story without exhausting every single avenue, and you never feel as though it's flogging a cash cow. So as far as continuation is concerned, I thought as though it really, the continuity of the whole experience was absolutely fantastic. And so there are moments that make you laugh, moments that will make you cry, and moments that will absolutely horrify you. And so if you're into that kind of thing, Baby Reindeer is definitely one I would recommend. But unfortunately, the reason why I didn't love this series as much as others is I couldn't help but feel as though I was being manipulated into actually feeling a certain way for Donnie's character, for Richard Gadd's character, and I kept feeling as though there was more to Martha Martha than first meets the eye, but you don't get enough insight into Martha. So the whole story wants to be impartial. It doesn't want to have good guy versus bad guy. It's two very damaged people. So you need to be impartial, and you need to tell a story very evenly. But unfortunately, it's leaning the way to Richard Gadd's side a little bit too much. And I can understand that because it is Richard Gadd's retelling. But if you want to be that impartial sort of story, you've got to retell Martha and her side of the story. So there's two sides to every story, but you're only really hearing one side. And the movie and the series is trying to give you sympathetic quality to Richard Gadd's character because it gives you more history behind what Richard Gadd actually went through. And so when you actually realise what he's gone through, you start to feel as though he's the victim. And so because he's the victim, all of a sudden it's gone from impartial to good guy versus bad guy, whereas Martha, you get a very vague description of what she's gone through. And I can understand, as I said, this is a retelling of a true story, and so you're not quite sure what Martha's background was all about. But if you want to be that impartial sort of story that it wants to be, I thought as though it needed to really get Martha's side. But it doesn't really do that, so therefore it starts to take the side of Richard Gadd because it's more sympathetic to his cause than it is to Martha's. But unfortunately, Richard Gadd's behaviour towards Martha was contributing to the monster. And so Martha wouldn't have been as intimidating as she was if Richard Gadd's character of Donnie did things differently. And so there was no innocent person, there was no guilty person, they were all as bad as each other, but unfortunately it was giving a little bit too much sympathy towards Richard Gadd's character. Therefore I couldn't help but feel as though I've been manipulated to think a way that I just didn't feel as though it was reality. Because what do we believe and what don't we believe? Because these, as I said, they're very damaged individuals, and it's clear that Richard Gadd wasn't thinking clearly during this time. So why should we believe everything that's been said from his perspective, and why should we hate Martha the way that we actually hate her? So at the end of this mini-series, a lot of hate towards the actual real-life character that Martha was based on. And so you have that victimization and you have that demonization. And therefore, as I said, the whole idea of two damaged people has been thrown away by the end of it because you get more of an insight into the consequences of what Richard Gadd has gone through as opposed to what Martha has gone through as well. So the impartial sort of qualities are not there at the end, and it does kind of lose track of its storytelling and the way it wants to tell its story. And so for that, I couldn't help but feel as though that manipulative quality really got in the way of enjoying it as much as I wanted to. But pushing that aside, as far as miniseries are concerned, it is definitely one that's very impressive. I just felt as though the storytelling could have been handled a little bit better, and as a result of that, I'm going to give Baby Reindeer 3.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.